Hello, welcome to the Darlene Hunter Show, where we motivate real people through real issues. I'm your host, Darlene Hunter. The show today is called Justice because I thought it was needed and necessary to have a conversation with our young Black men around the issue of racism and the social injustice that's happening in our community. But before I get started, I have to recognize our producer. His name is Christian Minus. Christian Minus is from Grill Season Productions. Grill Season Productions is a Black-owned company that focuses on creating thought-provoking content. They pride themselves with using videography skills and storytelling ability to create content that informs as well as entertains. Christian Minus is the company's founder, and he's also a recent graduate from the University of South Florida. He has a BA in mass communications with a concentration in video broadcast production. Grill Season Production is a platform created to give the narrative back to the peoples whose voice go unheard. With the conversations I heard today, they strive to find ideas that can make it better for tomorrow. And I have to just say that this show would not have been possible without Christian Minus. He put this thing together in about 4 days, and we are so grateful that we have him. So he will be behind the scenes working so you could join in the conversation. So excited to have him. So thank you, Christian, for all that you've done and that all you're doing today to make this possible. Now, I have two amazing men that will engage in this conversation today, and I am over the top excited about having them on the show. First, let me introduce you to Austin Medley. Austin Medley is a Christian African-American professional born and raised in a small town in New Jersey. Jersey, and currently resides in Dallas, Texas with his beautiful wife and newborn son. Professionally, Austin identifies and connects top executive technology talent with Fortune 500 to mid-sized companies nationwide. While training to become a minister, Austin is currently enrolled at Liberty University School of Divinity, obtaining his master's, and graduated from Villanova University with a bachelor's degree in sociology and a minor in philosophy. Austin, I'm so excited. I'm just jumping in. Austin was awarded with a full athletic scholarship to join Villanova's University football team where he played running back. Austin believes that it is never too late to become all that God has called you to be. Austin, I'm so excited. Welcome to the Darlene Hunter Show.
Thank you for inviting me onto your show. I'm extremely humbled and just thankful to be here. Thank you so much.
I couldn't even get through your bio. I'm so excited and so impressed with all your accomplishments and so proud of the man of God that you are. So excited to have you.
Thank you. All glory to God.
All right. So let me also introduce you to Rob Jenkins. Rob Jenkins is a Black author, creative director, and emotional consultant born and raised in Southern New Jersey. He is a graduate of Marymount Manhattan College, where he studied the art of communication and media. He is alumnus of the Emma L. Bowen Foundation, a foundation focused on developing young minority professionals in media. And Rob has recently completed a course to become a registered behavior technician. Having dealt with depression and anxiety in his life, Rob has studied and become well-versed in the mechanics and knowledge of the emotional body. Working with different artists and organizations, Rob has used his knowledge of the emotional body and media to direct and consult on several creative projects. Currently residing in New York City, Rob has dedicated his time to telling the stories he receives in his spirit through the medium of both books and film. His 6 books can be found under his pen name, Rob Aqua, and on his website, again named robaqua.com. Rob, welcome to the Darlene Hunter Show. I'm so excited to have you here as well.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
We are excited to have you. So as you both know, our nation has been in turmoil since the death of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery. At the memorial service of George Floyd, Reverend Al Sharpton called Mr. Floyd's death symbolic of centuries of racial injustice in America. He said, and I quote, "It's time for us to stand up in George's name and say, get your knee off our necks." My question for both of you, we're going to start with Austin first. What was your first impression of the George Floyd killing?
I think, though this is an ongoing issue that we've all had to live with for pretty much our entire lives, it never becomes easy to see. I think back to when I was a child, and when I used to have the TV on late at night in a dark room alone, and the TV being the only light in the room, watching one of my favorite shows, and suddenly a movie trailer comes on of a scary film. You try to rush to change the channel. You try to hurry up and turn the TV off, but sometimes you're just glued to what you see on the screen. And now you're susceptible to nightmares. You have bad thoughts you don't want to have. And I think as Americans, especially African Americans here in America, it's almost like seeing a scary movie, a horror film, so you will, each and every time we see a killing of a Black man here in America.
So Austin, I don't know if a lot of people know this, but I do know that your father is actually, or was actually, in with the state police. And so
Yes.
how did those feelings change for you or help you in any way, or how can you speak about that?
Absolutely. I think it's important to understand that privilege exists here in America, whether if you're white, whether if you have a nice job, whether if you have a extensive education background. I recognized at an early young age, through my father being a police officer, that we had a certain privilege that other Black folks didn't have. I believe my father modeled exactly what a police officer should look like. So there's a certain standard that I hold police officers to, because I had an example of what a police officer looked like each and every day coming into my home, but not only a police officer, but a Black man, a Black father, a Black son, a Black member of the community who was also happened to be a police officer. So my views, especially being in college when we had the deaths of Mike Brown, Trayvon Martin, it shook me, because I held police officers to a high moral standard, as they should be. You're called to protect and serve. And if you fall out of that line, you need to be held accountable.
All right. Thank you so much for that.
Absolutely.
Rob, I want to ask you the same question. What was your first impression of the George Floyd killing?
I thought it was a lynching, a murder that we witnessed on camera. And honestly, it's like, I didn't even watch the whole video. I think this video, goes to exactly what Austin was saying about how it's just, this stuff is just so traumatizing to watch. And honestly, it's like this whole thing where I feel like this video in particular was very powerful for people. We didn't see Trayvon die. They didn't see that on camera. We didn't see Mike Brown die. We didn't see that on camera, but we saw what happened with Eric Gardner. But I think for some reason, this one resonated with so many people and touched so many people, because literally you saw his knee on the back of his neck. And Black people, we've been being killed. These are just the ones that's on camera, the ones you hear about. This happens all the time to Black people all over this country. And not even just in this country, but all over the world. And it's just so crazy that still in 2020 that this is something that we're still going through. And it really pains me to the point where I'm a bit speechless. I guess you can tell, like I'm still trying to search for the words, but it just has to stop. It just has to stop.
Okay, so I agree with you wholeheartedly, and even when you just talked about, both of you just talked about the fact that somebody was killed on camera, and thank God for cameras, right? Because we saw it. And when you talked about it, it brought up emotion in me because it could have been any of us, right? It could have been any of us. But today's show, we're talking about justice. So, Austin, what does justice look like for you?
What does justice look like to me? That's a very deep question. Um, I think it's important to understand that, especially being a man of God, that me, myself alone, I can't I can't create the image of what justice looks like, right? I think that's something that individuals would take and it would look like different to each and every person what justice is. But when you bring God into the picture of what justice looks like, I believe it's his will, God's will in all of our lives to be able to be free, be able to have dominion, being able to multiply his image, being able to bear fruits of love, peace, a sound mind. And I think justice is love, loving one another. And when you see violence, when you see acts of justice not being carried out, 9 times out of 10, love is usually missing out of the equation.
That's right.
I believe justice is love. I'm going to sum that up.
Okay, good, good. I certainly agree. And if when you love someone, and I know you are a new father, and so you actually get it. When
Yeah.
you love someone, you want to protect and serve.
Yeah.
And which, as you mentioned, which is what the police are called to do. And when we see someone deliberately with their hands in their pocket, casually just knee on someone's neck, you could absolutely know that that was not an act of love or
Yeah.
kindness or protection or serving. So thank you so much for that. And I can actually feel your heart and really know that love is justice. Absolutely. So Rob, I want to come around to you with the same question. What does justice look like for you? I know you've been a little fired up in some things, but what does it look like to be right? What is just?
So to me, I want to say, going off of what Austin said, I do believe that justice is love. I believe justice is awareness. Justice is supposed to be fairness. Overall, in this circumstance, I feel like fairness doesn't exist right now in America. So to me, we have to create that. We have to create fairness. We have to really analyze what we're doing. We have to look at a lot of these programs. We have to look at the disparities, neighborhoods and amongst people and social groups. And we have to get rid of the things that are keeping some of these people down and not allowing people to be on equal standing. So to me, justice looks like reform and change, transformation. When it comes to a lot of these types of things happening to Black people, there's a lot of things that need to be reformed, including the justice system, because the justice system isn't justice right now.
Okay, okay.
And if I could
ahead,
add to
Austin.
that, I think we definitely need to understand what love truly is. If justice is love, then what is love, right? And I think if we're going to love, we need to love properly. And love is truth. Love is honest, and also requires commitment as well. If you love someone but you're not being truthful, or you don't want to understand what the truth is, you can never love someone properly. And we can't just point out someone's flaws. We can't just speak the truth over people's lives. We understand there are issues within the Black community. But if you are not committed to the Black community, that love isn't going to serve its proper purpose. So we need love. We need the love and truth, but we also need unconditional commitment as well when it comes to lifting up the Black community.
Absolutely. I agree.
Amen to that. So Austin, I'm gonna stay on this subject just a little while longer in reference to the evangelical community. And a lot of times we see that there's been things that have been said about the Black community. There's been injustice, and the evangelical community, ideally, some white churches and pastors, they talk about love, they talk about the Bible, they talk about Christianity, but they're okay with some of the things that are happening. How do we reach them? How do
Right.
we bridge the gap between, because that turns a lot of people off in Christianity when they see their brother or sister being hurt and no one, especially the church, standing up for them. How
Yeah.
can we bridge that gap? Do you have any suggestions or maybe ideas that we can share with those who may be listening?
Yeah. And, sometimes it feels a little bit hypocritical, right? That we preach messages of love and serving one another, loving your neighbor, but the response doesn't follow up, to what the words are. My advice, especially to the Christian community evangelicals, is not only to pray for the Black community, not to keep the Black community in your hearts, but to identify yourself with the Black community, with your Christian Black brothers. We are all part of one body.
Amen.
We all come from Adam. If we believe the Bible, we believe that we come from the same people, that we are all connected. We all put on Christ alone, that we are all brothers and sisters. So the Black plight, the Black burden doesn't fall onto Black shoulders alone. It falls onto the backs of the entire Christian body, white,
Amen.
Black, Asian. The Bible says there's no longer Greek, there's no longer Jew, there's no longer male, there's no longer female, but Christ alone. We put on Christ. So prayers are great, but like we talked about, love without truth, love without that unconditional commitment is not going to serve its true purpose. So we just want to call on all of our Christian brothers that are white, Asian, male, female, to not only stand for us, but stand with us.
Amen.
The church is segregated because our communities are segregated. We need to integrate. One thing I love about my church, Concord Church here in Dallas, Texas, they have a pulpit swap. The pulpit, they swap. So sometimes we'll have a white pastor preach to a Black congregation, a Black pastor preach to a white congregation. We can't just speak to the needs of our flock, speak to the needs of the people that are tithing to our church specifically. We need to preach to the community. We need to preach to the country. We need to preach to the world. And we got to preach the things that we necessarily, the people of God, may not want to hear, the tough things as well.
Amen to that. Thank you so much for that. Thank you. So, Rob, I know that you actually have a heart for the younger generation, those who are coming behind you. I know you have some younger siblings as well. And so what do you tell the next generation of Black men to help them in terms of what we're facing now, and how can they make a change?
Well, first I would say learn history. Learn your history. The education system hasn't done a great job of teaching Black people about where they come from and teaching Black people about how we got from there to here. So I would say definitely you have to do your own research nowadays. Go to a library, or we have Google. It's the information age now. We can Google things, we can look up things. There are definitely some YouTube videos that you can look into. So I would say definitely start there. Definitely, I also would say pay attention. Watch what's happening in the neighborhoods. Watch what's happening in the world, because you're going to see how history is tied up with those things.
Okay.
It's going to give you a context for where we are. And I definitely would say look for the needs of your community and try to think of ways that you can meet those needs. So those are the three things, or a couple of things that I would say that the youth can definitely do. And it's interesting because they say that revolution and change falls on the youth. It falls on the younger generation. It's usually, when you look back, it was young people that were in the civil rights movement that are pushing things forward. So I would say definitely look to that. Definitely do not be discouraged. Definitely communicate with your elders. The people that came before you, they have a lot of information. A lot of people were out in the streets, you know what I'm saying, back then. So not only to research and to read, but also talk to them as well.
Okay, great. So guys, as people are listening to this, and hopefully we'll be able to play this over and over and share it, someone might say, so, coming from you two, educated, professional Black men. How about those who didn't have a chance to go to college, who, you know, is still in their communities and they really feel that there is no hope? There is no hope. They can't go to college. They can't get a better job. And as we just going through this pandemic, the eyes were on the fact that the essential workers were the brown and the Black people, right? Those who are in the fast food restaurants, those who are in the industry of the meat, those who are in distribution center, you know, those lower paying jobs. And most of them said, I really can't focus on the fact that there's a pandemic. If I don't work, I can't eat and I can't pay my rent. And my babies will be put out in the street. So it's good that Rob and Austin are talking about this, but how about me? Austin, what would you tell them if they said, how about me in my situation right now?
You know, it's definitely tough. And, you know, like I said in the beginning, that you have to recognize your own privilege. Being a Black man, educated, well-paying job, I understand that I have certain privileges in my life, and I understand that there are some people that look like me that don't have those same privileges. I think it's important to be able to engage with your emotions. I think sometimes we just ignore things, just want to move forward, everything's okay. But I think we need to find positive ways to cope, find positive habits to combat things when things are tough, understanding how can we move forward in this, understanding these emotions, how can I facilitate and channel these emotions in a positive light. And also, I believe it's the responsibility of the church. There's so many churches and communities, right? And the goal of the church is to strategically use the resources that you have through tithing, through offerings, to uplift your community. And I believe there are so many neighboring churches that aren't impoverished neighborhoods that should partner with these churches that need help, and that we need to uplift our communities when people are in need. If they need food, if they need help with rent, finding a job, etc., we need to be there. The church, one body, we all need to be there to uplift these communities because people are suffering. And if we're not serving in that capacity, what are we here for?
Amen, Austin. Amen. Thank you so much for that. Rob, Austin mentioned the emotions. And you know, we kind of grew up in homes where, you know, you got a roof over your head, you got food on your table, suck it up, get over it, do what you need to do. And so we may have taught our Black men that it's not really kosher to display emotions, to feel broken. I know in your bio, you mentioned that you suffered at one time with depression and anxiety. And, you know, we kind of taught our Black men, you know, about emotions. It's not really good to cry and those kind of things. Talk to us about how you would have a conversation for those who are listening right now who's struggling with their emotional state and feel like they're less than a man because they feel broken inside.
So first I want to say that emotions are extremely important. We have them for a reason. Emotions are a feedback system that lets you know where you are in relation to other things, how you feel about things, and that's extremely important. When it comes to emotions, the thing that people really try to avoid is the painful parts. We embrace being happy, we embrace, you know, being ecstatic, feeling ecstasy. We like all those emotions, but pain are just things that let you know that you need to be aware of something. Something is wrong. Just like your body, you know, if you're walking and your leg hurts, it's just trying to tell you that there's something wrong with your leg. You need to look at this. Something is trying to heal. That's for some reason, you're not allowing it to heal. Same thing works with emotions. We've been taught that emotions make us weak if we express them. People say, oh, you're too sensitive. People usually don't look at the gift that sensitivity is. You're able to sense things. You're able to feel things on a deep level. And a lot of people have numbed themselves to the degree where they no longer even have that sense. Being a Black person in America, especially being a Black man, specifically because it's already a thing, a stigma, having emotions and being a man. It's okay to feel broken. And in fact, I would say, unfortunately, living in this society, it almost feels a bit normal, because I feel like the society tries to break you. It tries to tell you that you're nothing. It tries to make you feel like less of a man. But the reason why you feel pain is because your emotional body is telling you something isn't right. That's not correct. That's not right. And when you tap in and when you're able to be present with that, the realness can come to the surface. You can't escape that pain. You can't keep suppressing it. We can't be trying to use drugs and different things to try to like get away from that. Because as soon as you're done with that, as soon as that high wears off, as soon as being drunk wears off, it's right back. So I would say that your emotions carry important messages that you have to be present for. So that's what I would say.
All right, great stuff. Hopefully everybody is taking some notes or I mean, this is a good conversation. So for those who are dealing with prejudice, right? So, you know, a lot of times it's not something that someone says I'm prejudiced, and so they say yes or no. But people are going to work, those who have work, remember we're still in a pandemic, and they're dealing with racism in the work environment. And I know the last week or so, I've read so many different stories on Facebook about how people, I know my sister just shared a story that broke my heart, because I never knew that the industry and the hospital she worked in, they talked about Black people. She saw racism happening. And, you know, she was like a lot of us, we're the only African American person in that position on that job. And so for those who deal with that right now, those who are in hospitals that are working in any place, how do you suggest that they deal with it firsthand? You know, walking in the door, seeing it, not being promoted, not getting the job. Austin, I know that you actually connect people. So I don't know if you witnessed that or you had some conversation with some other recruiters and things like that, but what advice would you give to people who are facing that right now?
I think it's first and foremost important to know who you are. I remember growing up, my father used to tell me that, you know, people's perception of you is their reality. And I kind of molded my childhood, who I was in high school, around that. And thinking about it, it's a sad way to live. I feel like many Black Americans today, you know, we're used to putting that mask on and making sure that the perception that you're giving off is something that makes the other person feel comfortable, right? But at the end of the day, people's reception is not my reality. I am who God says I am. I am who God has called me to be. And the more I worry about other people's perception of what I am, the more it's going to prevent me from being all that I'm called to be. I expressed to some top executives, some top professionals in the technology field that you need to know who you are. You need to know what motivates you outside of the salary, the work environment, what is important to you. And when you have the skill set, when you're confident in who you are and your experience, it's okay not to be a culture fit.
Okay.
When you have the skills, when you have the talent, when you know you have the background, it's okay not to be a culture fit. And you're going to find so many organizations out there, people that may donate to nonprofits and social justice, et cetera. You may have all the skills on paper, but at the end of the day, you're still not going to be a culture fit. Especially if you're confident in your Blackness, if you're confident in walking in your heritage, and that's going to make some people uncomfortable, but that is okay. That is okay. You need to know who you are. You need to be comfortable and confident in your skills, your experience, and you got to be okay with not being a culture fit. But you have to also understand and be proud of your heritage, where you come from. You have roots, deep roots. And I think it's important to understand not only your parents' testimony, but your grandparents' testimony.
Amen.
Understand where your great-grandparents came from and all that they went through prejudice, segregation, racism, slavery, and how God has brought them so far from the way which they came. How far have you come? Your family has come. And you're going to be able to walk in that confidence in the workplace and your community and the grocery store. You're going to have to be able to walk with your chest up and your face up and know that God has brought you from a mighty long way. And no one's thoughts, no one's perception can take that away from you.
Amen to that, Austin. Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So guys, we're going to go over to our question in just a moment, but I want to, I would be remiss if I didn't throw this out there. What does it mean for the other races that we saw standing with us and for us? Rob, I want to go ahead and ask you, then also want to come back and ask you the same question, then we'll open it up for questions.
Okay, so I want to say that if you're a person who's non-Black and you see the injustices happening out here, to research, look up things, talk to Black people, figure out the problems and things that they go through, the struggles they go through, because they're going to say things to you that you probably have never thought of, things that have been blind to you your entire life. I remember when I was in school, in college, and I was talking to someone, we were talking about how to get ready for a job interview. One of the things I brought up was code switching, changing your voice, making sure you talk in a way that white people feel comfortable and, you know, they interpret this as an intelligence for them. You know, people judge intelligence by how you communicate. And unfortunately, someone can be really intelligent. And if you speak in slang to a white person, they can think that you have a lower intelligence, which isn't true. But that's something that the white person in my class was like, oh, I never even thought about that ever in my life. So that's something that I feel like you should talk more with Black people about these types of things. You're going to learn a lot. Also from there, I would say talk to your peers, talk to your parents about these things, enlighten them, share information with them. And also I would say use your privilege to create opportunity for Black people. We just saw what happened with Serena Williams' husband. He recently stepped down from Reddit, the board of Reddit, and urged them to hire a Black person. And
Wow.
they donate money to different Black organizations. So it's like things like that. Things have been unjust, things have been uneven. Black people haven't had access to a lot of things. There are a lot of brilliant Black people that are in the hood that just don't have access to a lot of this stuff. If you were to allow them to get access to things, they could have the cure for cancer. They could invent the new thing that can change the world, but they can't even connect to that, which is why a lot of systematic racism is an injustice for everyone. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I would say.
Wow, good stuff. I see your passion. I hear your passion. This is excellent information. Austin, we're going to come back around to you. What does it mean for allies from other races to stand with us and with you?
I definitely want to say, just to answer the first part of the question, that it means a lot. I want to take a moment to commend the people that the white, Black, Asian, there are so many people out there marching and protesting today that aren't Black, that recognize that they don't maybe understand the experience, what it means to be Black wholeheartedly, but they understand what is right and what is wrong. And they're out there standing alongside us, and we definitely appreciate that. One thing I do want to touch on, I think that it is important, Black, white, whoever is protesting, whoever wants to make a difference, that it is important to, first, we need to reform ourselves. We need to allow God to change our hearts before we're able to make reform within the nation, before we're able to make change in the nation. That it starts with the individual first, and then we are able to go forward. I think it's great to look at the person of Moses. When Moses first acted out in his heart his desire to liberate the people of Israel in Egypt, he committed murder. And he thought that the people of Israel were going to realize that he was going to deliver them, but they didn't, because it wasn't the right time, nor did he use the correct method. So what did he do? He fled for 40 years, spent time isolated away from the problem, from where his heart desire was to liberate. Though it was a good intention, he had the wrong methods. He had to go away for 40 years, spend time with the Lord, understand the Lord's methods, understand the Lord's timing, receive orders from the Lord, and then through an act of obedience, he went and liberated God's people. So we thank allies that you're out there with us, arm in arm. But I think we all need to take time to understand, how do we do this? How do we combat injustice in a righteous way that we can make that change that will be everlasting? We don't want to build a foundation on sand where it's here today and it's going for the next generation. I saw a video of a gentleman talking to a 16-year-old, a 50-year-old, and he was probably in his 30s. And they were out there protesting the same way they were doing it decades ago. And he said, this isn't working. I need you, talking to the 16, I need you to find a different way because this isn't working. I have a 2-year-old, I need something different. The Lord's way works. It worked for Martin Luther King. It worked in the civil rights movement. And if we go back, turn from the way that we're going and incorporate God's way, God's methods, God's timing into this issues and social justice, the Lord will see us through. I'm confident in that.
Amen.
It takes time.
It does. I'm right there with you, Austin. Thank you so much for that. So we know that change will only happen when people change, right? But right now, right, tonight, tomorrow, young, old, Black men, women will be out and about. So how do we protect ourselves against the never-ending cycle of police brutality? We have to live. We can't, by the grace of God, you could say in some instances that we're sheltered in, but we all saw that the pandemic, which we're in to protect ourselves from the virus, right? But we saw that it didn't matter. I heard people say, if I have to die, I'll die because it's not right. So what advice could we give, Rob, I'm going to come to you first, to protect ourselves against the police brutality? Is there anything we can do to protect ourselves in your eyes?
So this is the whole thing that I feel like why people are protesting. And I feel like that's the first step, or that's a definite step to protest, to make noise. There is, I forget exactly where I heard it, but there's a thing that says if someone's torturing you and you don't make any noise, you'll die and they'll say that you liked it. Wow. You have to make noise. We have to say this isn't right, this isn't right, this isn't right. We have to keep pointing the camera, keep pointing the light, keep pointing attention at this issue. And we have to press the people that change the laws and change that change and work these things. We have to keep pressing. We have to keep applying pressure. And that's one thing that I feel like we can do. Another thing is that the more we talk, the more we educate, the more we keep showing people like we're people, we're human beings. This is happening to people. I think a lot of people are detached from one instance, from being Black, and a white person may be watching and be like, well, that's Black people that go through that detachment, but also we're watching it on social media. It's a different type of thing if, one, that is your father that happened to. There's a lot of people that are insensitive that are like, oh, why are you guys protesting? He was this, he was that. People talk about, oh, someone committed crime or whatever. Your brother or your sister may not be a perfect person, but you wouldn't want that to happen to them. It doesn't matter. Your mother, your father, you know what I'm saying? It's this separation. So I feel like letting people know, like, hey, we're people. This is happening to people. You have to wake up. This is happening right in front of you right now. And this is just what's on camera. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like making noise right now is a very important thing, and demanding for change, demanding reform. And that's what I have right now. I'm still in this with everyone else. So I'm still also looking. We're looking for ways. We're trying things. We're trying to push things. Just like Austin just told that story of that man talking to the 16-year-old. We need to find another way. If this isn't working, then we need to find another way. What other ways can we do? And I think we should keep trying. And that's the ultimate thing. Keep trying, keep pushing, but keep letting your voice be heard. Do not suffer in silence. So.
Okay, well, thank you for that, Rob. Rob, I just want to pick something up of what you said. So people have been out there protesting, and in the midst of the protest, we saw it all over, right? Brutality in the protests. We saw, fights, and in New York, I was just appalled when I saw a car push a crowd. And so one of the conversations I had with my husband was, are the police angry now to the point where it's going to get worse? Is it going to get worse because we arrested some police officers, in in the area where the older gentleman fell, was pushed, and he hit his head, the next day, that entire group resigned. So now it's going to hurt the people of the community not to have that emergency team present. So, you know, people are protesting, and it looks like, you know, we got a lot done through the protests, but is it going to be worse now for those who driving in the everyday community? And also, I'm going to shoot this to you. Driving down the road and you have a light out in the back, or you didn't put your blinker on, should we be more afraid if we get stopped by the police officer now because of what's happening? Can you comment or give your thoughts on that?
I definitely think that we as a people need to prepare ourselves for retaliation in some sense. Police officers are people. They aren't perfect. The world is watching them. The world is critiquing them. The world is holding them accountable. And there are going to be some people that respond in a negative way. I think with that expectation that people need to continue to press forward. When Colin Kaepernick took the knee, he knew the negative outcomes that could come. He knew what was at stake. Same with police officers. When you put on that badge, you know what's at stake. People that enlist into the military, you know what's at stake. When people are out there protesting, they know what's at stake. And like you said, people understand there's a virus out there. They believe that the call to justice is worth it.
Exactly.
So the suffering that may come about from standing for what's right, we expect it. We pray that the Lord's going to get us through it. We know he's going to get us through it. And we just pray that those officers that resign because that people are holding them accountable, we say God bless them. We also say good riddance. And we want to encourage people that have the right heart, that have the heart of God to go ahead and sign up to replace those officers that are resigning. We need people of color. We need people that have the heart of God to immerse themselves in all places, whether it's in the police force, whether it's in Congress, whether it's in government, whether it's in the business field, executives. We need to be out there. We need to serve one another. We need to love one another. So let's just continue to do good things and not be discouraged.
Amen to that. All right, we do have a question for Halima Thompson. And she says, with everything that's been going on, anxiety, depression, and fear has been an all-time high for a lot of us. What are some ways that you've been able to stay grounded and motivated to keep fighting? Rob, the question is for you.
Well, I would say, first of all, that's a big thing. And I feel like this time is very high anxiety with everything going on, the coronavirus, with things happening, with people losing their jobs, people are dying. And then on top of this, we have to deal with all this racism. And then even, it's hard to escape. Like, even if I want to take breaks sometimes, I'm trying to like watch stand-up comedy or watch something funny, there's always something that comes up that reminds me of what's going on right now. I was watching Dave Chappelle and he did a joke about police brutality or white privilege. And it's like, this is everywhere. I would say definitely taking time to be quiet and be still with yourself, to be around your friends, to be around like-minded people, to be connected. We have to stay connected. We're all in this together. I feel like, Black people talking with Black people about it and reaffirming ourselves and understanding where we are coming from and realizing that we're not alone. We're not alone in this. You're not one person in this. There's a lot of people out here that see what you see and are fed up and are also tired of it. And I think that building community is a great way of lessening anxiety and stress because you feel like you have a support system behind you. You have people that are here to take care of you when you're tired. They'll rub your back. They'll make sure you're good, to give you words of encouragement to keep going. And I think that that's something definitely to do during this time.
Okay. Well, thank you for that, Rob. And thank you, Halima, for the question. So guys, we have come to the end of the time. That was fast, right? It was actually really fast. It was a great conversation. I can't thank you guys enough. We're going to have to do it again, right? Again, as I mentioned in the beginning, that we need to have a show with Black women and see how they're being affected, the challenges that they are facing through this as well. So we're going to reach out to our producer and see what he thinks about that show. But thank you, Robert Jenkins. Rob, you just want to mention if someone has some questions for you, how can they contact you, and can you just share information about your website as well?
Yes, I have a website called robaqua.com. It's robaqua.com, and there's a contact there. You can write in any question or anything that you want, and I'll receive it and I'll respond back to you promptly.
How can they also purchase your books, Rob? We mentioned that you have 6 books out there.
That's also on the website. If you go to robaqua.com and you click books, all my books are available there. They're also available on Amazon. There's links to all that stuff on my website. It brings you to Amazon, brings you to iTunes. So whatever you need, whatever you use.
Okay. And Rob, if someone wants to reach out to you in terms of emotional consulting, they're struggling, someone they love is struggling, can they actually reach out to you for your services? Or I know right now we're doing virtual consulting. Is that something that's possibly with you?
Yes. And you can contact me and find me the same way, robaqua.com.
Okay. Rob, thank you so much for being on the show. It's been an absolute pleasure, and your wisdom and knowledge, it was just amazing. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So Austin, there may be some questions. It looks like to me that some people might want you to come talk to their youth and to their groups. If they want you to come out or just really want to tap into your wisdom and your knowledge, I'm just so impressed at your level of spirituality and how you're able to relate to what's going on. So if they want to reach out to you, is there an email or someone they can reach out to you?
Yes, my email address is Austin, AUSTIN, for my middle initial, then Medley, MEDLEY. So Austin H Medley @gmail.com. You can connect with me on LinkedIn or follow me on Instagram, Major Med, MAJORMED on Instagram. Shoot me a direct message. I'm available.
All right, great. And so I know there's going to be a book coming from Austin soon. He actually just had a baby, so we're going to give him a little bit of time to do what he needs to do as a new father. But I'm looking forward to helping Austin get that book together as we move forward down the road, because I know he has an amazing story to tell as well. Again, thank you both. It's been an amazing show. Go out there and make a difference and an impact in the world. Goodbye, everybody. Thank you for joining us.
God bless.
God bless.
Thank you.